Unwavering Defiance: How Black Mothers Transform Broken Systems Through Relentless Love. Good morning, everyone. I stand before you today not just as a speaker, but as a messenger carrying forward the extraordinary wisdom of someone whose story demands to be heard and whose impact ripples far beyond her immediate circle. I want to begin by acknowledging Yamina Whitaker, a force of nature who has single handedly transformed the landscape for Black families navigating autism through her unwavering advocacy, fierce love for her sons, and revolutionary commitment to preparing young Black men for independence in a world that too often fails to see them fully. When I first interviewed Yamina, I was struck not just by her resilience, though that alone would be remarkable. It was her strategic brilliance in transforming personal struggle into systemic change. This woman has moved mountains, challenged institutions, and created pathways where none existed before. Through her work, she's generating waves that extend far beyond her family, touching countless lives across communities that have historically been marginalized, overlooked, and actively harmed by our healthcare and education systems. Let me be clear about something we don't discuss nearly enough. Systems work exactly as designed. The uncomfortable truth is that our medical, educational, and social systems were never designed with Black children in mind, particularly Black children with neurodevelopmental differences. These systems weren't built to recognize their unique presentations, address their specific needs, or nurture their extraordinary potential. This is the battlefield where mothers like Yamina find themselves fighting, not just for services or accommodations, but for the fundamental right to have their children seen and recognized as fully human. For years, not months, not weeks, but years, Yamina fought for her son's autism diagnosis. She knew her child in the way only a mother can. She observed his behaviors, recognized his challenges, understood his unique way of experiencing the world. Yet medical professionals repeatedly dismissed her concerns, overlooked clear signs, and denied access to evaluations that would have been immediately offered to white children showing identical behaviors. This isn't merely anecdotal. The data tells a devastating story. Black children receive autism diagnoses significantly later than their white peers, if they receive them at all. The average age of diagnosis for white children is around 4 years old. For Black children, nearly 6 years old. Those 2 years represent critical developmental windows where early intervention could dramatically alter life trajectories. Let that sink in. 2 years of potential growth, development, and targeted support lost, not because the signs weren't there, not because parents weren't advocating, but because systems designed to identify and support neurodivergent children consistently fail Black families. Why does this happen? The answer lies in a complex web of biases, both conscious and unconscious. Black children's behaviors are more readily labeled as behavioral problems rather than potential indicators of neurodevelopmental differences. Black parents' concerns are more easily dismissed as overreaction or misunderstanding. And cultural differences in how autism presents may be missed entirely by evaluation tools designed primarily around white, middle class behavioral norms. This is where Yamina's first profound lesson emerges. Persistence in advocacy isn't just important, it's essential. When systems fail to recognize our children's needs, our advocacy becomes the bridge between institutional blindness and appropriate care. Maria Davis Pierre understood this reality intimately. As a licensed mental health counselor and parent navigating these same challenges, she founded Autism in Black, an organization dedicated to raising awareness about autism within Black communities while providing culturally competent resources and support. When Maria's daughter was diagnosed with autism, she immediately noticed the lack of resources that spoke to her experience as a Black mother. Medical professionals handed her pamphlets and website recommendations that featured no families that looked like hers, contained no cultural context for her community, and offered no guidance for navigating the additional layers of complexity that race brings to the autism journey. Rather than accepting this gap, Maria created what she couldn't find. Through tailored education, support groups, and advocacy training, Autism in Black has increased visibility of autistic experiences among Black families and empowered community led advocacy efforts. Her work addresses the dual barriers of systemic racism and ableism that compound difficulties for Black families seeking diagnosis and support. What Maria and Yamina both demonstrate is that effective advocacy requires both individual persistence and collective action. When one mother stands up and refuses to be silenced, she creates space for others to join their voices with hers. And when those voices unite, systems begin to crack, then bend, then transform. But Yamina's wisdom extends beyond securing diagnoses and early intervention. Her second key insight addresses a transition many parents face, but few discuss openly, preparing young adults for genuine independence. Grow, groove, and move, Yamina emphasizes when describing her approach to raising her sons. This mantra encapsulates her commitment to equipping young Black men with both practical life skills and the emotional resilience necessary to thrive independently while fulfilling their unique purpose. This transition from parenting young children to supporting emerging adults represents a critical phase that requires intentional preparation, especially for parents of neurodivergent children. The stakes are particularly high for Black families, where young men face additional societal barriers and prejudices that compound the challenges of neurodiversity. Consider the reality. Approximately 85% of autistic adults with college degrees remain unemployed or underemployed. For Black autistic adults, these statistics grow even more daunting when intersecting with racial discrimination in hiring practices. Independence isn't just about teaching practical skills. It's about preparing young adults to navigate systems that may view them through multiple lenses of bias. The Audition podcast offers a powerful example of community building around these challenges. Launched in 2023 by a group of Black fathers raising autistic children, this platform creates space for perspectives often missing from mainstream conversations about autism. One father shared how his 17-year-old son had been approached by police while stimming in the public park, a harmless self regulatory behavior misinterpreted as suspicious or threatening because it was exhibited by a Black male body. This father had to teach his son not only how to manage sensory overload, but how to do so in ways that wouldn't trigger dangerous responses from law enforcement, a double burden white families rarely face. Through stories like these fathers openly share both victories and setbacks, fostering solidarity and support. Networks that challenge stigma around autism diagnosis while normalizing Black fatherhood combined with neurodiversity advocacy. Their work reminds us that preparing children for independence requires community, a village of support that understands the unique challenges faced by families navigating these intersections of identity and ability. But here's where Yamina's wisdom takes an unexpected turn, one that challenges our cultural narratives about caregiving and strength. Despite being what she describes as a fixer for others, Yamina acknowledges that she relies on faith, saying there's only God to fix it for me. This profound admission reveals her third key insight. Caregivers must prioritize their own mental health and support systems. This wisdom directly confronts the strong Black woman trope that has burdened generations of Black women with expectations of unlimited resilience and self sacrifice. The cultural expectation to remain strong while carrying impossible burdens has real consequences. Higher rates of depression, anxiety, and chronic stress conditions that often go untreated because seeking help contradicts this harmful narrative of strength. Keisha Grieve's story illuminates this reality. As founder of Girls Chronically Rock, Keisha focuses on adaptive fashion while advocating for mental health awareness within disability communities. Her journey, managing physical disabilities alongside invisible mental health struggles, highlights how systemic barriers disproportionately affect disabled people of color. When Keisha was first diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, she initially kept her condition private, attempting to navigate her career in daily life without acknowledgement of her changing abilities. The pressure to appear normal, to push through pain and limitation without complaint, nearly broke her. It wasn't until she embraced her full identity, including her disability, that she found her voice as an advocate and entrepreneur. By combining entrepreneurship with storytelling platforms that highlight real life complexities beyond stereotypes, Keisha has raised public understanding about how disability intersects with race and mental health. Her work reminds us that self care isn't selfish, it's essential for sustainable advocacy. This brings us to a fundamental truth that challenges conventional wisdom about caregiving. The most effective advocates aren't those who sacrifice everything. They're those who recognize their own limitations and build sustainable practices of self care and community support. When we examine these three insights together, persistence in advocacy, intentional preparation for independence, and prioritizing caregiver well being, a revolutionary framework emerges for navigating systems that weren't designed for us or our loved ones. This framework doesn't just apply to families navigating autism. It offers wisdom for anyone confronting systems that fail to recognize their humanity or meet their needs, whether in healthcare, education, employment, or beyond. The conventional wisdom suggests that systems are neutral arbiters, providing equal access and support to all who engage with them. But the lived experiences of Yamina, Maria, Keisha, and countless others reveal a different truth. Systems reflect and reinforce the biases of the societies that create them. When those systems consistently fail specific communities, the burden of transformation often falls on those same communities. This reality isn't fair. It shouldn't be necessary for parents to become experts in neurodevelopmental conditions just to secure appropriate care for their children. It shouldn't require extraordinary persistence to receive diagnoses that would be readily offered to others. It shouldn't demand superhuman strength from caregivers already carrying heavy loads. But until these systems transform, Yamina's wisdom offers a pathway forward, one that balances fierce advocacy with sustainable self care, that prepares the next generation not just to survive these systems, but to thrive despite them and eventually transform them. I want to leave you with this challenge. What systems are you navigating that weren't designed for you or someone you love? What institutions are failing to see the full humanity of people who matter to you? Don't wait for permission to become the advocate your community needs. Don't accept the limitations of systems that were never built to serve you. And most importantly, don't sacrifice your own well being on the altar of endless struggle. Instead, take Yamina's wisdom and make it your own. Fight relentlessly for recognition and support. Prepare yourself and your loved ones not just to navigate broken systems, but to reimagine and rebuild them. And remember that Your strength as an advocate comes not from martyrdom, but from sustainable practices of community care and self preservation. The revolution we need won't come from accepting systems as they are. It will come from mothers like Yamina who refuse to be silenced, from fathers who create spaces to share their journeys, from entrepreneurs like Keisha who turn personal challenges into platforms for change, and from each of us who dares to demand that our institutions recognize the full humanity of all people. This is your call to defiant love, love that refuses to accept limitations, love that transforms systems, love that sustains itself through community and care. This is how we build a world where no child goes unseen, no parent fights alone, and no system remains unchanged in the face of our collective demand for justice. Thank you.